which is the overview to decision making. And I welcome Tamsin here to remind us of how many workshops and working groups we've been through to get to this stage and the amount of information we've been given and had the chance to ask questions about before we discuss sending things out for consultation. Have you weighed the amount of information? There's about 7 kilograms I think we've had so far. Over to you, Tamsin.
Ngā mihi ki a koe me Brown. Tēnā koutou katoa nā kawana o te kunihira o Tāmaki Makaurau. Today marks the first major milestone for this long-term plan for the period 2024 to 2034. This process began back in June when you agreed to resolutions that outlined your intentions for this LTP when you made decisions on the annual budget for this process to be politically directed and led. This also included resolutions to establish political working groups that the Mayor just mentioned on topics related to the development of the long-term plan, and that included things like revenue, investment, Māori outcomes and regional parks. As a result of these resolutions, several facilitated sessions were held earlier this year to help you determine the strategic direction for this long-term plan. A subsequent document was produced that included your requests for advice as related to different investment areas, focus areas for further work, and principles to guide staff from across the group. This document is attached to my report on today's agenda, and the contents underpin the way we have approached this process and the type of advice you have received since August. To get us to today, we have held 49 workshops and briefings with the Budget Committee and with local boards to provide you with advice and information to support your decision making today. We have covered a broad range of topics including rating policy, performance framework and measures, investment options across the group, fairer funding of local boards, housing and growth, climate risk and disclosure requirements, and general climate considerations, and of course the key legislative requirements like the infrastructure and financial strategy that we are required by law to include. The report in front of you is a procedural one. It sets out the legislative framework that dictates this process. It provides you an overview of the process to date and the next steps involved in meeting both our legislative and audit requirements. Detail on climate disclosure obligations and their relevance to this process is also included in Attachment C, and I note this information has been well canvassed during the recent months. A high-level process map is also included as Attachment B and sets out the other key milestones between now and adoption in June. Importantly, this report provides you with the context for the remainder of today and the decisions you will be asked to make, decisions that will establish regional items for consultation. My report also includes details on other items for consultation, such as the Tupunamunga operational draft plan and issues relating to Iki Pānuku and waterfront land, both subject to decision making at next week's governing body. Once decisions are made today, staff will work to reflect your decisions in consultation material and will provide draft content to Audit New Zealand, who will be conducting an audit of the material on behalf of the Office of the Auditor General. We will then provide you with a draft material as part of a workshop ahead of decision making, where you will be asked to adopt material to support consultation with Aucklanders early next year. The report includes 2 noting recommendations. One is related to the content of this report and the context it gives to the rest of the agenda, and the other one notes the related decisions that are included as part of next week's governing body. Finally, I wanted to thank you for your input, your engagement and your guidance throughout this process. Ngā mihi ki a koe. Chair, happy to take any pātai.
Tamsin, we'll have a mover and a seconder for the motion, please. Leone and Simpson. Right, are there any questions of Tamsin?
Councillor Turner.
Councillor Turner.
Thank you. Just those noting reports, so do they constrain, I'm just very careful about where I felt I fell into a trap in the budget, the last budget, where we were constrained on what we could debate after the event because it had to be inside this. You just mentioned 2 noting reports, which you say have relation to how this is put forward. Can you just explain that to me so I know I understand it properly?
Thank you for the question, and through the chair. I assume you're referring to the Tupinamonga and Iki Pānuku? Yes. So what I referred to is just the noting recommendation that is within my report. It just notes that you will be asked to make decisions on those 2 items as part of the governing body meeting next Wednesday. So any debate that you want to enter into on those 2 options, you absolutely have the right to next week as part of governing body.
Thank you.
Councillor Filipino, please.
Thank you, Chair. Malolele Tamsin and Morena. Tamsin, this is a hard question, but I will ask it. Do you believe that all the workshops that you have identified in the agenda item, that we have received all relevant information that is in regards to the mayoral proposal that we will be discussing on this agenda? Kia ora.
Kia ora. Thank you for the question, and through the chair. So in terms of the decisions that you're being asked to make today are decisions about what you want to consult on. And the information to support that includes over 300 pages that are attached to the mayoral proposal, and also hundreds of other pages that are attached to another agenda item today, which is the release of workshop material. Of course, it doesn't include some workshop material which is confidential, but I believe through those 49 workshops and briefings, you have been provided with the adequate information to make the decisions you're being asked to make today. Further information will need to be provided to support consultation and to meet the audit test that is required of us, and that will be the next step. So that will be what we will be working through between now and February, both in terms of working with our internal legal team so that they are that they have assurance that we have met our legal compliance requirements, but also that high test that audit requires of us to ensure that the information that we provide to support consultation is fair, is reasonable, and helps explain to Aucklanders what we are asking of them.
Supplementary, Chair. Tamsin, will that include any contestable advice that we may not have had to date, but we may end up getting? Does that include that information that we could be getting in the next few months?
Through the chair. So in terms of any additional information, again, that would need to meet those 2 tests. It would be supporting the decisions you make today. So the decisions you make today really set the tone and set what we are able to include in the consultation material. So any additional information that we were to seek or were to look into would have to reflect the decisions that you are making today. It couldn't be outside of the scope of those decisions.
Last part, Chair. Tamsin, last one. At this stage, and you've been involved with Toby and the rest of the team in regards to all the workshops. My last part is, what would be... No, I won't ask this one because I think it's a double-edged sword for you and for your team. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Walker, please.
So I've got a question. I'm a bit unsure as to whether now is the appropriate time, but might as well. So there'll be expectations on the part of the public that they can make submissions, particularly, say, around areas of cost savings and so on. And that could be across council, could be across CCOs like Auckland Transport and so on. So my concern is that in instances where there's something that people are putting up and it doesn't have any positive budgetary implications. That is, it's not causing us to find more money. It might be a saving. It might be doing something differently in terms of the way we operate or the way a CCO operates. Are people in a position where they can have some confidence that those submissions will be able to be considered by the council and determined? That is, that their submission can be taken into account.
Thank you for the question, and through the chair, yes, absolutely. And I think what we're looking at today is a really, really broad proposal in terms of what people are able to provide feedback on. But of course, anything around cost-saving initiatives, as you've indicated, would absolutely be included. And also, the public are more than welcome to provide you also directly with their feedback, so that that can also be considered. So there's multiple channels that Aucklanders can feed into with their ideas, both on the proposals within the material, but also, as you stated, things such as savings and cost initiative.
So supplementary question. So the reason that I'm asking that is in a recent annual plan, as much and all as there were options being put up by members of the public and councillors for that matter, we were told on a number of occasions that no, we couldn't do this or that or the other because we hadn't gone out and consulted on it. So I'm making the assumption that this process is wide enough in its scope to allow that. So I really want to be very clear on that so that we avoid that circumstance. So
thank you for the question. Just to clarify, so when we talk about the scope of consultation, there are of course some items that under legislation would meet the test in terms of us being required to consult on them. So those are things where there's a drastic change in levels of service, or potentially where we're looking to stop a service. So where things meet, where we have not included things that would meet that test in terms of actually needing to consult with Auckland, those would be things that are out of scope. But things that don't meet that test, of course, can still be considered.
thanks.
No, I support that. This is supposed to be for the widest possible audience on the widest possible range of things for them to discuss. That's why we've got a range from high, medium, low, and we want the public to have a broad range of things that they are discussing. Okay, there are no further questions. If you want to go back, I'll ask if there's a debate about what you've done, but given the fact that we've had 72 hours of debate about that, I think we possibly might have got to the end of that. In which case, I will move the motion, put the motion.
It's been moved and seconded.
Eh?
It's been moved and seconded.
It has. I'll put the motion. All those in favour of receiving that, please say aye. To the contrary, carried. I'd like to just note my thanks to Tamsin and her team. She has put in endless hours of work on getting us to where we are. Righto. We're now on to the long-term plan regional topics for consultation, local board input. And I'll welcome Louise and Phoebe and Renee to the table. There have been 21 local boards, so I expect we'll get at least 21 different perspectives on this report, but thank you to those chairs who've, the good Angela Full-James, who's almost a regular attendee, and others who've put in a lot of time. Oh, my local at the back there, thank you for that, for the effort that you've all put in. So the floor is yours, Louise and Renee.
Thank you, Your Worship. Morena, councillors and members, our report provides the local board adopted feedback and advocacy. With the draft mayoral proposal being released early last week, local board business meetings were held between Tuesday and Thursday last week. And as you'll see from the report, there is a wide range of feedback, and we've done our best to capture the board's intentions in this report. The full resolutions are attached. I know that being able to refer back to the exact wording into the resolutions is important. And you'll see that there were feedback on all the main categories in the proposal, but particularly on financial strategy and levers, transport, matters relating to local boards and community assets. Local boards also provided feedback at the governing body workshop in November before the proposal was released, and I think with that feedback giving a good idea around the board's views. I have Phoebe and Renee here to answer any questions that you may have about that feedback. Thank you.
It must have been so clear. Oh, Councillor Walker, please.
Just a very quick question. In the local board feedback, there's the very recent feedback that we've received from local boards. Can you confirm that that feedback from the local boards was, on the part of the local boards, dealt with and confidential by those local boards? So members of the community aren't familiar with any of this or had any engagement with this. It's really just almost personal opinions of local boards.
The resolutions were taken in confidential business meetings of the local boards, so they are the feedback and input of the local boards.
Thank you for that question. Councillor Henderson, please.
Yeah, thanks. I know. Sorry, I know there are a few local boards that had meetings scheduled in their diaries before their proposal was actually available to give the feedback. Can I just confirm that every local board received the proposal before they fed back into it?
Yes, that's correct. The boards that had meetings scheduled before the proposal was released adjourned to a later time that week to take a meeting for their resolutions and feedback.
And we thank them for that too. You know, I've met and heard from them and they really did read it. It wasn't shallow at all in any way. Councillor Sayers, please.
Thank you, Chair. My question's specifically around the stadium question in the stadium going out for public consultation. If you could just help me. First question is just confirming which local board the stadium sits within. I could probably look it up, but you might know in terms of what their local boards.
Upper Harbour.
Upper Harbour, thank you. What was their feedback and the surrounding ones? I know there's Hibiscus and Bays, there's probably Rodney as well. Just those local boards that are directly in the kind of geographical boundaries or touch on that ward. Did they all give feedback on that? And what was the, I suspect there was a range, but which ones supported the Merrill proposal and which ones made other comments?
Yeah, we can give you that information offline, but from memory, a lot of the local boards around that area thanked the Mayor for the different options to be able to consult on the hub, on the stadium.
Okay, thank you.
Chairperson Atkinson attended a briefing with me and was reasonably positive about where we went to.
Thank you, Mayor. And just, I should probably just understand as the councillor for Rodney, what was the Rodney's feedback on that?
Perhaps while she's finding it to read it, she can give it to you to read, and I'll take the question from Councillor Lee, please.
In regard to local board consultation and input, yesterday I received an email from the manager of the Waiheke local board area complaining not just about the savage cuts to the Waiheke area board budget, if cuts are required across the board, that is understandable. However, the Waiheke Local Board area manager is saying that the cuts planned for Waiheke are out of line with normal council policy and allocations to local boards, disproportionately large cuts. They make the point that most local boards have had reductions around about a couple of $100,000. This is over a 2 million cut. Some local boards have had no reduction at all. Why is this departure from long-term council policy targeted at Waiheke? Is there any answer? And could I get an answer, please?
Thank you, Councillor Lee, for the question, and I'm aware that the board has concerns about the draft figures that are in the budget. I would emphasise that they are draft, and that as we work through the long-term process, they will be finalised. I have Ross Tucker here who can answer in more detail.
I hope Mr Tucker's explanation is more cogent than the last one I received, with all due respect. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, thanks for the question. So we have had some time over the last 24 hours just to dig into, what's happened with those numbers across all of the boards. The process, as Louise has outlined, is correct. This has been an exercise of looking at renewals across all of the boards and looking at prioritisation and focusing the prioritisation within a constrained envelope on the most critical renewals. So I can confirm that it's not just Waiheke Local Board that's been affected. It's quite a number of local boards that have had reductions. So it's been across the board. The figure of only 100 or 200,000 for other boards isn't correct. We've got the majority of boards would sort of be above $500,000, and there's other boards in the $1 million. So it's been across the board where prioritisation has occurred. So Waiheke has not been singled out. It has been a uniform approach across the region.
Can I ask through you, Mr Mayor, that the finance staff or whoever is behind these cuts explain that to the Waiheke Board area manager, because she firmly believes that the average cuts are around about 200,000. The Waiheke area local board area budget capex has been cut by $2.5 million, which is way out of line. So if you can explain that, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. The matter has been clarified both with the relevant manager and also with the chair of the board, just to provide that further explanation that Ross has given today. And again, emphasising these are draft figures, so we will be working through that process.
Fair enough. Thank you for the question. Councillor Walker, are you having another one? Yeah.
So just a question further to Councillor Lee's question, and I appreciate that these figures for the local boards are in draft form, and it goes like this, it goes to scope. So if after consideration of the impact across local boards, it's deemed that these changes are having a significant impact in terms of delivery of various services, are we in a position, based on community submissions, to actually make a change?
I can answer that. It's yes.
Okay.
And part of that is there was, in response to a move to more equalising the fair allocation, which has winners and losers. And we will be expecting and receiving inputs from all of them along those lines. It's one of those things, if you're going to move towards fairness, there were winners and losers, and we were only moving to within 5% of that. But I'm sure after we've heard the submissions over the next few months, we'll be able to make a decision in May that may amend some of those accordingly. So we will be quite happy to hear.
So supplementary question, that means that, for example, we might maintain the status quo or some variation of or something in between. We can do that?
Oh, that's entirely possible. I mean,
I really want to nail this down because I do not want a situation, as occurred in the last annual plan, where we were told, no, that's what you've gone out with, local board, sorry, end of story.
Can I suggest to the chair that we take this as part of the debate for the staff advice at item 9, because it's the way in which we balance and feedback some of that decision-making rights.
Can you capture that question for that debate? You've got it in advance, and my expectation is that you will raise the answer then. Thank you.
Fair enough. Okay. It's a mover and a seconder to pick up the long-term local board consultation. Deputy Mayor, and are you seconding this? And then you can ask another question still. Yeah. Seconder then, please. Okay, right, it's moved and seconded, and you get the first crack at the whip. Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I'll just be a couple of seconds, but just want to really thank the local boards for their really hard work on this. It was such a high quality level of submission from everyone out there, and I note one of the resolutions from one of my local boards that they got less than 48 hours to feed back to it. And to have produced such high quality, I think, is a real testament to our governance arm in the local board. So just want to thank everyone for that.
Oh, I totally agree with that. I was present in the receiving them, and it was they were very grown, very adult, very sensible, very rational, and very impressive, actually, I have to say. So thanks for all of the local boards. Right. Councillor Sayers, did you get an answer to your question there with...
Just through the chair, so the Rodney Local Board did not support the sale of the North Harbour Stadium and do not support this being included as a regional consultation topic for the 10-year budget.
Okay, thanks, Chair.
Okay, staff, thank you very much for that. We'll allow for debate to occur, but I think Councillor Henderson's point was very well made. Anybody wish to debate this? I mean, we're just more or less noting and receiving, and we are going to be listening to them all the way through the next year, I'd say. Whilst they only had 48 hours for that, they've actually got 4 months for the next round. Councillor Walker, please.
Just make a very short comment, and that is that my opinion is that the information that the local boards had in front of them on the proposals for any changes to the North Harbour Stadium was woefully inadequate. As a councillor, I've been asking questions and I can't get adequate answers myself, and I'm reasonably over it, so I don't know how they were able to really formulate any coherent response. So that's just a statement on my part, sir. I'm not interested in any response from anyone. Thank you.
Thank you for that statement. Okay, I'm going to put the motion that we consider input from local boards when deciding on regional items to be consulted on for the long-term plan. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, carried. Thank you very much for that.